Hi, my name is Karen Daly. I am the settlement attorney and branch manager here at the EKKO Title One Loudon office. And with me today, I have Heidi Marine. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And today we're going to be doing our second video on 1031 tax exchanges and talking more specifically about the rules that govern them because they are pretty specific, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what type of property first, just as a refresher, can be used for a 1031 tax exchange?
Sure. So it has to be held for investment purposes only. It cannot be a personal residence, and it must be what's called like-kind property. Okay. So, for example, if the property that you are selling is a single-family rental property, and you want to purchase a single-family rental property, obviously that's like-kind. But pretty much any real estate is considered like kind. So let's say you want to sell that single family rental property and purchase 2 apartments that you're going to use for rental purposes. That is like kind. Also, let's say you have a commercial property that you are looking to sell and you would like to switch over to a residential property instead. Also, that is considered like kind.
Well, that's good. So there's some flexibility there when you're looking at the types of properties and what's considered like kind.
Yes.
So there are 3 buckets, I understand, that a seller really has to look at when they're determining the value of the property that they're selling versus the property that they're receiving. What are those buckets?
Yes. So in order to maximize your benefit from the 1031 exchange and avoid paying capital gains, you have to make sure that the value of the property that you're purchasing is equal to or greater than the property that you're selling. Also, the equity in the property that you're selling is equal to or greater in the property that you're purchasing. And if you hold a mortgage on the property that you're selling, you've got to ensure that that new property has the same or greater amount of a mortgage.
So you have a really good example that illustrates the value and those 3 buckets that you just talked about. Why don't you share that with us?
Yes, so let's say, for example, you're selling a property that's worth $600,000. It has a $200,000 mortgage, so you have $400,000 in equity in that property, okay? So in order to have the full benefit of the 1031 exchange and not pay any capital gains at that time, you would want to purchase a property for a greater value. So let's say, for example, you purchase a property for $700,000 and you put the full $400,000 in equity in the old property into the new property, and you take out a $300,000 mortgage. So you have met all of those qualifications. The value's higher, the equity is all in there, and the mortgage is higher as well. So you have full protection of your proceeds there. Let's say instead you purchase a property that is worth $500,000. So you've gone down in value for $100,000. In that situation, you only put $300,000 down, but you maintain a $200,000 mortgage. That difference in the equity, okay, you have a difference of $100,000 in the property that you sold versus the property that you're purchasing. You would end up paying capital gains on that $100,000 in that situation. So you wouldn't have the full benefit of the 1031. But imagine a situation where instead you purchase another property for $600,000, so same value as the property you're selling. You put $500,000 down, so $500 in equity, so you have $100 extra in equity, and you only take out a $100,000 mortgage. In that situation, because you replaced the diminished mortgage balance that you reduced by $100,000 with $100,000 additional in equity, you would have the full protection of the 1031 exchange, and you would not have to pay capital gains in that situation.
Okay, so there's some very careful analysis then that it sounds like you have to do when you're looking at what you're going to be replacing the property with, the sales price, your equity, and then your mortgage.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. So let's talk about, just real quickly, the timeline. Because I understand it's a very strict timeline for doing a 1031 tax exchange.
Yes, so there's the beginning of the timeline starts with the sale of the property that you are getting rid of, which is called the relinquished property. Okay. So that is day 1, right? So from that date, you have 45 days to identify the property that you're purchasing, which is called the replacement property. So from the date of sale of the relinquished property, 45 days to identify the property you're purchasing.
Okay.
Then you have 180 days, again, backdated to the date of the sale of the relinquished property, to close on the property that you are purchasing. So the 180 is not calculated from the 45-day mark where you have to identify the property. It is backdated to the date of the sale of the relinquished property.
So I like to think of it as you have a total of 180 days to complete the 1031 tax exchange, but your first 45 days, that's where you're identifying your replacement property.
Exactly.
Now, we've heard about reverse 1031 tax exchanges, and I think it's in part because we've had such a strong seller's market. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is that?
Right, so it's exactly what it sounds like. So you're doing that exact same process, but in reverse. So let's say, for example, you are an investor, you have some investment properties already, but you see a great opportunity pop up and you know it's gonna be gone if you don't jump on it right away. So you don't have the time to put a property that you already own on the market and close on that. So instead, you purchase that great opportunity up front, okay? So that becomes day one, okay? So you go ahead and buy that property. You then have 45 days to identify the property that you want to get rid of, which is easy because it has to be a property you already own, right?
Yes.
And then same time frame. So from the closing on the property that you purchased, you have 180 days to get rid of one of the properties that you already own, to sell one of your properties.
Okay.
Then that money would be protected under the 1031 exchange and you would not have to pay capital gains. The rub with that is that the title to the property that you're purchasing is held in the name of an exchange accommodation title holder. Okay. So sometimes in that situation, it's tricky to get a lender to loan you the money. So you would want to ideally have cash to make that purchase.
And that's probably, if you're looking at getting a mortgage, that's one of the questions you're going to want to make sure you know the answer to before you go purchase that property.
Correct. Correct.
Well, thank you very much, Heidi. That was very useful information, and I'm sure the realtors will definitely appreciate having that for their tools when they go talk with sellers. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you at the settlement table and hope you have a great day.